but also in terms of your experiences with distribution, and is there a market for us to go out and do our stuff?
Well, it depends upon the film you're making. I mean, it depends if you have an original voice. Depends on the depth of, how good you are in your film grammar. Can you tell a story? Do you have good acting? Is the editing good? I mean, that's going to determine whether you get distribution or not.
Can you remember, Spike, how it was for you way back in, was it 86? She's Got to Have It? 1986, yeah. Can you remember how tough it was then?
It was still tough to get a film made, even today. So, it wasn't that long ago, but I think that the younger generation right now, I mean, they really, they could use technology, to do things that we weren't able to do. There were no such thing as DVD players. Now, I mean, you can learn practically everything just buying a DVD with all these extra features where they break down stuff frame by frame, and a lot of these things, these extra features in DVDs are learning tools.
Would you ever not make films the way you've been trained to make films and the way you've traditionally made films with 35mm cameras, well-known actors, a good crew around you? Would you deconstruct all of that and try and make a film the other way? Would that be something that interests you?
Yeah, I mean, if the subject matter, the studio called for that.
I mean, you seem to have mixed that quite healthily, your desire to make documentaries still with your desire to tell stories. It seems to be a quite healthy mix that you've managed to build into your career.
Well, I do commercials and music videos also. In addition, as you said, documentaries. So I never tried to limit myself as just a narrative filmmaker. And
is that something that you feel just almost in a generic way starts to influence the way you make a film, using stuff that you would apply maybe to a commercial or a music video?
Well, I just think that anything you do with film, can enhance, your overall ability as a filmmaker.
Do you feel almost an obligation to yourself that each time you take on a new project that you are still pushing the envelope, that people are looking for that from you with your project?
Well, I don't really worry about what people think and expect me to find new cinematic ways and stuff like that. I think that you just try to grow as an artist. One of the most important things I ever read was a quote by Kurosawa, who said, like when he was 85 years old, that there was a whole universe of cinema he still had yet to learn. And he's one of the true masters. So if he could say that at the age of 85, then that's a very humbling, that's very humbling when you read that.
And then did you find that on this experience of making this movie, that you are still learning things about you as an artist?
Yes, I'm not 85 yet.
Are they good things, or are they sometimes bad things that you find out about yourself? Do you as an artist get sometimes, it seems to me that sometimes people who, the more experience you get, doesn't always mean you get better. You can get lazier, you can cut corners.
No, I'm not lazy when it comes to work.
Okay, there's a question right here.
Yes.
Hi, do you think you could talk about some qualities in a producer that you think are important for a first-time filmmaker? Because, sometimes you can meet a producer who has great contacts, but may not be, structurally as strong, or you might find a producer who's had a lot more experience. It's like, what are a few qualities that you think are kind of important to keep one's eye out for?
Well, I think that if there's anything that you remember that I say today is that there's no one way to do anything in cinema. That, excuse me, that supported authorities will tell you have to do like this. No, you don't. There is no one way to anything. You do not have to go to film school. Some people do, some people don't. And what you have to do is find out what works best for you, because everybody has separate and unique, and you have things that work for you, things that don't work for you. So I cannot really tell you what will work best for you. You just want people that are competent and know what they're doing. Some producers are good with contacts. Some producers might just be the only thing you need them for is find the money. Creatively, there'll be no help at all. So it really depends on, weaknesses are, because not everybody knows everything, so you want to surround yourself with people who show up your weaknesses.
You've worked with John Killick on a lot of your films. What's the strength in that relationship, the producer John Killick?
Well, he really, can talk to the studios and deal with them, and where I might get mad and stuff like that. So he's like the calming influence.
You've also worked with Martin Scorsese as a producer. What was that experience like on Clockers?
Well, I mean, he at that time he was going to do Clockers, but he decided to do Casino instead. So he just stayed on executive producer, and I made the film I wanted to make.
Did you ever talk to him about the project? Because it was a different project before you came on board, because it changed quite dramatically when it became yours.
Well, I mean, he asked me to do it. I didn't go to him. So I just told him what my different take of what the film would be.
And he nodded sagely and agreed.
No, he just said, he agreed, and he told me to, speak to Richard Price, the novelist also, who wrote. When he was doing that film, Richard Price was writing the script, he wrote the novel also, and Robert De Niro was going to star in it also. So it was really a star vehicle, the script of the star vehicle for De Niro, but that really wasn't the viewpoint we wanted to take with that film, if I was going to direct it.
What kind of relationship do you like or what is the basis of your relationship with the writers you've worked with, like people like Richard Price and on this project, David Benioff?
I'm very respectful of writers, and I understand that they're the ones, the originators of the idea, and if there are things I would like to do, I just try to make them understand that we might take a different direction and stuff.
Do you work very closely with them?
Yes, the few times I've done that, I do.
I mean, as in, do you spend days with them, or do you get sent the material that they
Well,
work
I did
on?
more rewriting on the Clocker script and almost none on this film, 25th Hour.
And this is a first-time screenwriter. I mean, he's a novelist, obviously, and he's a journalist, I think, also. In the previous incarnation, David Benioff, could be wrong, but I think he was. I mean, but he's never written a screenplay before. He seems to get this one.
That doesn't mean anything. I mean, he wrote a very good script. Yes.
As interesting for many people who...
Okay, thank you. We've got the question now. The question is very simple. Is it possible to market these digital films that people are making for much less money? I guess is the question in its simple form.
I think that it is possible. It's very hard, but if you have a film that has unique insight, has good performances, I don't think the fact that it was shot on digital tape will stop the distributor from buying it. It might be an independent distributor. It might not be MGM or Warner Brothers or Paramount, but it can get done. And I think that, number one, as young filmmakers, what makes you think that your first film's going to be worthy for distribution? Let's be honest. You'll learn it. What makes you think that just because you want to be a filmmaker, that you're going to have automatically all the skills that it takes to be a filmmaker is going to come together at your initial first film? Maybe it might be 2 or 3 films down the line. Maybe the first film was a disaster, and you learn from the mistakes you made. So it's a learning process. So you have to be really realistic. I mean, you might not get a Hollywood deal, whatever, or distribution for the first film out.
But can I just say something? What about, just to answer the gentleman's question, remember one of the most successful European exports in recent years was a film made by Thomas Vinterberg, shot on Vita, and it was called Festin, so it is possible. You got a great story, a great ensemble together, you put it together properly, and boy, the magic can work. Anyway, question over there.
Okay, I'm going to kill you again with another political question, but it's a little different. You were historically very important in the movement to get more African-American directors into film, and part of what you did was, as I recall, you went into various public forums and said, why are all these white guys writing and directing films about our lives? As a woman, American-German woman, I am like astounded, who went to film school 20, 30 years ago, like so many of us women are in the film schools, 40, 50% of the student bodies, and I was astounded to learn no American woman director has ever been nominated for an Academy Award. Not only that, only 2 women have ever been nominated, Lena Wertmüller and Jane Campion. What? Maybe there's a new one now. But the other question is, even this is true for writing as well. I'm a member of the Writers Guild. I got the listing of all the English language movies for 2002 who should get the prizes. Page after page after page, no women writers. Probably about 5%, and statistically it's 7% directors. Could women do what you did and say, you know, politically, would it work for us, do you think, to say, you know, we should be writing and directing the films about women? And because I know that Friedrich Douglass helped us women back in the 1840s, and is there a way that we can hook up with African Americans in that?
Well, I have a very simple answer for your question. You should address the women that run Paramount, Sherry Lansing.
Yeah. Well, sure.
A woman runs Sony Columbia.
You know, if women didn't screw each other, we would have had a woman president long ago. We had the vote.
Wait, but I mean, what I'm saying is that in the film industry, there are various women, more than one, that run the studio. Sherry Lansing, I forgot Amy's name at Sony Columbia, Stacy Snyder at Universal. There's a woman at Disney that was head of production. So, and there's various women producers, you know, that are very prominent producers. So I think that you should go to them and put the burden on them and say, why is it so?
You did something else. You publicly complained, and I wonder if you think that would work.
You know, I really cannot devise your strategy for how you want to. But what you said is true, though, and this is something that needs to be rectified.
Okay, after doing 16 movies, when finishing a movie, whose comments are you still interested in? Like, everybody says, this is great, I didn't like this. What are you interested in? Whose comments, or who do you ask for?
Well, I think everybody has a small circle of friends and associates and co-workers whose opinion you value and trust. So that's what it really comes down for me.
The same people you asked 15 years ago?
No, it changes, you know, because I'm not really that stagnant, so, you know, it changes over the years.
Thank you very much.
Do you think they are as honest as you would want them to be with you?
Yes.
And do you act upon some of their comments? If there's a kind of consensus in their criticism of maybe a part of your storytelling, do you act upon that?
If I feel it's valid. Yes.
In 25th Hour, you're using a technique where you repeat sequences, like you show different takes of some movements, like when they go up to the apartment. And I'd like to know, do you remember what
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to know if you did that for kind of epic distance, or if you rather created it for us to live those moments once or twice or 3 times.
Well, it's like a punctuation mark, and we did it several times. My editor, Barry Alexander Brown, we did it a lot of times when 2 people would hug, so we would show them grasping each other from both sides, so it looked like it was done twice.